Welcome, everyone. We are now live on YouTube.
Hi, welcome, everyone. All right, we are at 5:30. At least that's what my computer says. Hopefully it's accurate. So we can get started. Thank you all for joining us today. And first, thank you for being flexible with the scheduling. I know we had to change this month's schedule with holidays and all, so I'm glad. Looks like a lot of folks can still make it. All right, can you all hear me okay? Yeah, okay, great. Just want to make sure the interpreters can also get, okay, awesome. Welcome everyone to the 40th Committee Community Steering Committee meeting. We do have a packed agenda today, but would first, as always, like to go over some housekeeping and then some welcoming remarks from our co-host Kimberly and Jess from their district, excuse me. So let's first get through some logistics and housekeeping. So for those who want to use the Spanish interpretation feature on Zoom, here are some instructions to do so. So located at the bottom of your screen in your Zoom controls, you'll click Interpretation, which is that globe icon. You can click the language you would like to hear. For this meeting, it's Spanish is the other option. And to only hear the Spanish interpreter, it'll prompt you to click Mute Original Audio. If you don't click that, you will hear the English speaker simultaneously. If you have any questions, please use the chat feature also located at the bottom of your Zoom screen and type in your question there. We'll monitor that and make sure to read it out loud. So I'm going to pause and let the Spanish interpreter give those instructions in Spanish.
Thank you, Jem. Muy buenas tardes a todos. Bienvenidos a la reunión. Para esta reunión sí tenemos interpretaciones en español de modo simultáneo, así es que si usted está en una computadora, usted va a seleccionar el icono que parece un mundo abajo de su pantalla. Si usted está usando un teléfono, sus opciones son diferentes. Usted va a buscar los tres puntitos indicando más opciones o more. Y allí usted encontrará la interpretación. Va a seleccionar interpretación. Después seguido por su lenguaje de preferencia, en este caso será el español, y de esa manera usted tendrá la opción de escuchar toda esta presentación en español. Si solamente desea escuchar su idioma de español, por favor recuerde de silenciar su audio original, o a veces lo verá que dice Mute Original Audio. Y de esta manera solamente escuchará la presentación en inglés. Si usted desea someter cualquier pregunta o tiene comentarios, siéntase libre de usar la función de chat y aquí estaremos para asistir. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. All right, and if you haven't done so already, please make sure your full name and organization are showing in your screen name. So to change your screen name, you want to click on the three dots on the upper right-hand side of your video. If you are a CSC member, please use this naming convention in the green. You'll put CSC dash first and last name. If you're a resident, you'll use R dash first and last. For everyone else, please use these naming conventions in the light blue. For example, your first name dash your organization. And if you're from the general public, please put a P right next to your name. This will help us properly track attendance, and it's especially important for those in the stipend program. The residents in the stipend program should stay for at least 75% of the meeting to be eligible for the stipend. Our meeting is scheduled for 2 hours today, so you would need to stay at least 90 minutes or an hour and a half to be eligible. I also want to remind folks, oh, we already did that. I don't know why that. I also want to remind folks the meeting etiquette, since there will be several speakers tonight. Please remember to stay on mute unless you're speaking or planning to speak. And if you are calling in by phone, you can use *6 to unmute yourself. If you want to ask a question during the presentation, please raise your hand on Zoom. And if you're calling in by phone, use *9 to raise your hand. Lastly, as always, if you have any questions or concerns that you only want the facilitators to see, so that's myself, Amy Ramos, or Liz Love, we have an H+ co-name next to our name. You can send us a private message in the chat box and we will try to take care of what you need. And as a reminder, it's our responsibility to ensure the conversations are productive and respectful, but we'll need everyone's help in doing so. So let's walk through some agreements as a group. Let's walk through our agreements as a group when we share this space. So first and foremost, we're all here for the same goals and reasons. We want to remind everyone that in dialogue, we want to focus on solutions, opportunities, and keep the dialogue productive. We know we have a really limited time and there's a lot to go over, so we want to make sure there's space for everyone to participate. If you tend to be someone who likes to speak up a lot, we encourage you to take a step back and make space for others. And if you're someone who tends to stay quiet during meetings, we encourage you to be brave and step up and share your thoughts and questions. As always, please remember to be civil and respectful. It's always okay to disagree. That's natural discourse, but please be respectful, empathetic, and civil. Again, we want to stay on point and on time, so we want to keep comments brief and to the point, allowing everyone enough time to also share their thoughts and questions. Remember that we are not our ideas, so if there's any disagreement, we attack the problem and not the person. We want to honor everyone's humanity and dignity, and there's always a way to respectfully challenge and disagree on thoughts and opinions. And to that end, we always want to seek common ground, right? We're all here for the same reason, looking for solutions for the community. So let's all try to help build consensus and find shared values, hopefully leading us to that goal. I'll now share the group agreements in Spanish for those who prefer to read them in Spanish. Wonderful. And here are some instructions for those in the public attendees. Again, raise your hand if you want to make a comment during public comments, or *9 for your phone. And here are the contact information for folks on the Facebook and on YouTube. Lastly, let's go over our agenda. So tonight's agenda looks a bit different from what we usually have. After opening remarks from Ryan, not Jess, from Ryan and Kimberly, we'll hear from the Interdisciplinary research team on their project update. And we will then, after that, we'll spend a majority of our meeting on the Caltrans project presentation and discussion. Since we're prioritizing these two agenda items, we will only have time to hear about time-sensitive updates from the truck rerouting subcommittee. All other subcommittee updates will be sent via email to everyone. We haven't forgotten about the need for the continued budget discussion from our last meeting that is on deck for the next agenda item for January's meeting. So just wanting to name that is something we all requested, but we wanted to prioritize these two as they were more urgent. And lastly, as you all know, CSC members, co-hosts, Air District, and CARB are always welcome to attend our regularly scheduled agenda setting meetings and the CSC debrief meetings. So at these meetings, we have the opportunity to elevate what worked well, what might need improvement, and of course, deliberate on the agenda items. The draft agenda is then sent out to everyone weeks in advance for any input, and sometimes folks will reach out to the Air District about modifications. However, folks sometimes aren't able to do that. So if you aren't able to attend the agenda setting meetings, but you have a modification to the agenda that you'd like to propose, please email or call the district, the Air District, or us if you prefer, your facilitators, as soon as possible, even if it's an hour before the CSC meeting. That would still allow us some time to prepare accordingly. However, we understand that everyone is busy and might not have time to request changes. Therefore, in the spirit of being inclusive and providing more opportunities to propose agenda items, we will dedicate a few minutes after we review the agenda for folks to make suggestions. As you make suggestions, please keep in mind the following parameters. Given how much time and effort goes into preparing these agendas, we ask that folks only present time-sensitive items that can wait until cannot wait, until the next agenda setting meeting, such as the Caltrans project that Lisa brought to our attention last month. We also ask that you consider the urgency of your agenda item and whether it will need any documents translated or any specific person or position at the table to carry out that discussion. So if someone proposes a change to the agenda, of course, we will ask for any objections to the group, and then that will inform whether we make that change. So with that said, given today's agenda, are there any proposed changes? Lisa, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
One of the things I wanted to bring up in regards to future agendas, especially since you're going to be having the upcoming meeting in December, is will staff have the availability of some sort of Gantt chart and a timeline of what decisions need to be made within the next 6 months? Because what I'm finding is this consistent pattern of not pre-planning and giving enough lead time. So I would like to see that addressed at the agenda meeting, because if we know there's certain milestones that we need to make, we should front load those into the agendas, 6 months out to a year. So we have something that we're working forward and toward versus doing like we've done for the last 2 years. That's the only thing I want to bring up. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understood. So the tracking the action items, or a Gantt chart with a major action items, and putting that, sort of making that visible during the agenda setting meeting. So we're tracking that and making sure we're keeping those into account when we're setting the agenda. Did I hear that correctly?
Well, first off, we would have to have a Gantt chart, and we really don't have a Gantt chart.
Right.
But what I really would like to see are what are the major milestones on all the elements that we're going to have to hit for the next year, so we can start thinking short-term and long-term decision-making here.
Okay.
Versus what we've been doing, which is basically putting out spot fires all along, and we really need to get a grip on this.
Got it. Thank you. My team has noted that in the action items. Thanks, Lisa. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda before we move on? All right. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Thanks all for bearing with me. I promise that's the most talking I'll do tonight. So now I'm gonna pass it off to Kimberly and Ryan for some opening remarks before we hand it off to the Interdisciplinary Research Project team update.
Excuse me, I think Naomi, did you want to speak? Because she was like making hands. Oh, you weren't? Okay. She was just saying hi to me, sorry.
Ryan, do you want to go first, and then we can pass it to Kimberly?
Sure. So good evening, everyone, and happy to be here tonight with all of you, and really want to take some time to thank Kim for volunteering to be the co-host for tonight's meeting and working with us and on the agenda items, and also want to thank all the speakers that are here tonight to present to you the information that you requested. And I think it's going to be a really good discussion tonight, and looking forward to hearing from all of you on the agenda topics. And so thank you. So I'll turn it over to Kim at this point.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight, and thank you for allowing me to be your community co-host. It's been a pleasure. I believe this is my third time co-hosting AB 617 steering committee meeting. So, and just want to thank Caltrans for coming to our meeting and presenting on this project. We have a lot of questions, so I just want to remind everyone to be respectful, and so we can get through this agenda item and get all the answers to our questions that we have. And I will pass it back over to Jim.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Kim. All right, so next up we have the Interdisciplinary Research Team project. So I'll pass it off to Naomi to kick us off for their project updates, or to go to Jonathan. Go ahead, Naomi.
Thank you, Jen. Buenas noches, good afternoon or good evening, everyone. Happy to be here and ending the year on a positive note with you all. And I know you know me and you have heard a lot of me, so I promise that talking is going to be done also by Dr. Jonathan London, who will be co-presenting with me tonight. So if you allow us, we will go ahead and share this presentation. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. It's going to be a super short presentation. So, okay, so it is a mouthful, but basically we are working together as part of this interdisciplinary research project. And we just started, the team is formed by Dr. Cisneros, who is working at the University of Merced, along with Hilda Zarate Gonzalez. From UC Davis, we have Dr. Jonathan London and Peter Nguyen. And then with CCJN is myself, Gustavo Gray Jr., and Jasmine Buenrostro. So why are we doing this? You know, we are all have been working with AB 617 for almost 3 years. So what we would like to try to contribute through working in this project is to understand the impacts of AB 617 implementation in 2 of the 4 Valley communities, South Central Fresno and Chapter, and also draw on community residents, agencies, and air quality data to understand how that implementation happened and how it has helped improve our air quality. And also identify some of the areas in which this program could be improved overall. So as I mentioned before, this is part of a national initiative that is funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. And it's a 3-year project. We started in March of 2021. So we have been working on this for a little bit less than a year, and it will end on August 2023. And there are some specific methods that we are going to be using. And Jonathan, remind me in which slide I need to turn it over to you, but I think this is my last slide. So air quality monitoring, community surveys, interviews, meeting observations, but also analysis of the SERPs. Is this your slide, Jonathan? I can't remember, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I'll take it from here. Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks, Naimeen, for your teamwork with us, and thanks to the Air District and to the CSC in particular for the opportunity to address you. I know you have lots to do in your agenda, so we're really happy to get a little time. What we're looking to do is really provide information, ideally, that will be really helpful for the CSC, for the Air District, and also for CARB to be able to do the work that you're really trying to do to improve air quality and health in your communities. So we want to know how has the air quality changed? So there'll be an air quality data report, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll have a report on health and air quality perceptions based on a resident survey. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about that survey. And then we'll have a policy report, which is looking at the SERP and how the implementation has gone, in particular, how the community priorities have been represented in that implementation. Next, please. Next slide, Naimeen. Okay, so here are the specific methods. So we'll be doing a series of interviews with CSC members, Air District representatives, local governments, and CARB. So we're developing that sample of interviewees now, and we'll be in touch with a number of you coming up shortly to schedule interviews with your permission, of course, and for those who are willing to speak with us. And those interviews will include questions about just what is your involvement, what's your overall sense of the impacts of AB 617 in terms of meeting the kinds of goals that you have and your communities have and your organizations have. looking at the process in terms of inclusivity and collaboration, and then particular thinking about outcomes and this question of community priorities, as well as ideas for how can this policy be improved further to be able to meet everyone's goals. Next, please. The next part will be on surveys, which I should back up. So the interviews will be conducted by myself and our UC Davis team. Then this resident survey is being conducted by Naimeen's team with CCEJN. So this is a survey of residents throughout the 617 communities in Fresno and Shafter. We're using a set of validated questions, that those have been scientifically shown to have reliable results and measures, specifically looking at resident perceptions of air quality and air quality changes, as well as self-reported health data. We're not doing a health survey like drawing blood or other kinds of biological samples, or even looking at health records. We're just looking at self-report. And we're doing 2 surveys, one at the beginning and one at the end of our project, to try to track change over time. Next,
may I just add that we just completed our first baseline. So 101 surveys were completed already in South Central Fresno, and we're about to complete 50 in Chapter as well.
Great, thanks, Naimeen. And then we'll be doing, and we have been doing meeting observations. I believe people have reported out that we have UC Davis teams that have been observing the CSCs over the last year, hundreds of meetings at this point, which means that you've been doing hundreds of meetings. So we have too. And we have actually Jessica Raeli Eisen, who's on tonight and is actually going to be leaving our team because she's graduating, but she's been participating. And we've also had a team in Shafter, and also for a larger study, I'm looking also at Stockton and South Kern, Arvin Lamont. So we're looking at how are these meetings going, both the CSC meetings, the other related meetings, who's speaking, who's making decisions, what's happening as a result, what's the dynamic like, and again, how well are the outcomes being aligned with the community priorities. Next, please. And then finally, and unfortunately, our colleague, Dr. Cisneros, is not able to join today, but he's doing an analysis of air quality data using CARB and air district monitors, looking at air quality at the beginning of 617, when we're able to get the data, that is to say, when the monitoring began, and then towards the end of our study, not the end of 617, but just with the time that we have. So we'll be looking at the sort of the patterns of pollution on the different pollutants that you're looking at in terms of increases and or decreases. We do have some challenges. You know, it's actually a modestly funded study, so we don't have funding for our own air monitors. You know, there's other sorts of analyses that could be done if we had additional funds. But there is a lot of data. You've certainly been collecting massive amounts of data, and we'll be making use of that through Ricardo's analysis. Next, please. So that's it. I think we breezed through pretty quickly there. We want to make sure that we have time for any kind of questions or suggestions or feedback, because we, as we say, really want to do the study in a way that's going to be providing you the most valuable information possible. And the you in this case is CSC members, Air District members, CARB. I know we have other agencies on the line like Caltrans and the city and so on. So it really is intended to provide information for all stakeholders. So please share with us any thoughts or questions that you have.
Please, oh, go ahead.
I'm assuming, Naomi, you called me?
Yes.
Okay. Being always the inquisitive person and actively listening, John, when you were talking about the issues and the reports that you're going to be writing up, how are you going to handle, during the pandemic, we had the shutdown where the air appeared to improve. How are you going to use that data and that phenomenon in your analysis? Are you going to break it out and not count it, or how's that going to be dealt with?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Lisa. And I should say, this would be a perfect question for our colleague Ricardo, but is not able to join us today. But all data is useful data, and so we won't be excluding it, but we will be putting a caveat on it to note what are the kinds of impacts that or factors that could be affecting the data. Same thing with like wildfires and other sorts of events. We'll be trying to mark what are the different kinds of factors that could be that could be driving those levels as we can. Oh, go ahead, Naomi.
Yeah, definitely this is a question for Ricardo, but in terms of the survey, we did include some questions that asked people about their perception of the air quality having changed in their community during the pandemic. So we did try to assess that through the survey.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. And we also do mention wildfires as well, trying to get a holistic look at the air quality conditions there.
Ivanka?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the presentation. I think my question is, how and is there any of this data that will be able to be used in alignment or pulling information from the research that you're doing or the perception surveys? Can any of that overlap with our health analysis study that's part of the truck reroute study? Specifically, it might be the surveys if it's more than the perception piece, or is there, if you're getting that frontline comments from residents that are in the impacted areas, can any of that be used if it's stating, for example, if a parent says my child's asthma is worse on such and such days when we've experienced this kind of polluting impact? Like, is there going to be information that could be helpful in supporting data that's being made from the health analysis? Because I just see it as a very a high possibility of opportunity between the two projects, between the both research projects.
Ivanka, remind me, what is the timeline for the health study that will be conducted as part of the rerouting study?
I don't, it's going to 2023, right? Maybe,
No. Yeah, the idea is that it would run in parallel to the truck rerouting study, although the truck rerouting may start a bit early. The plan was always that they would run in conjunction and that we would have the benefit of having information about the truck routes and the health impacts, and would be able to use the health impact results and data to help drive the policies towards changing the truck routes with the knowledge of existing conditions, taking into account what stationary sources are there.
Well, let me just say or remind about when the timing of our two surveys that we're conducting. So as I said, we just completed the surveys this year. Just the surveys were collected between October and November in both communities. And then we're going to conduct another, a second survey in 2023, which the second one seems to be more, it's going to happen more at the time that the house survey is happening. But I think that our idea, and please Jonathan chime in, is that we're not going to wait until we have all the data of comparing the two surveys to start, analyzing the data and also providing some reports back to the CSC.
Yeah, I would agree with what you said in terms of timing. In terms of just the public accessibility of the data. So while we can't provide individual level data because of confidentiality, all the reports based on the surveys will be available to whoever would like them. And I think, we'd love to explore ways to be able to make the survey data as well as the air quality data, as aligned with the kinds of other studies that you're doing. So I think this could be a good question to follow up on the survey thing. We could talk and bring in Hilda, who's been doing a lot of that survey design, and with the air quality piece to bring in Ricardo for a next meeting, a kind of a focus meeting with whoever's interested in being part of that.
Dr. Benice?
Yeah, thank you. I think the timing of your survey actually is fine. I think that because you've done it in October and November of 2021, that it can be really helpful as a baseline and just to see where we believe we're starting from. And then the 2023 would obviously catch and capture a different set of circumstances. So I think that it really does align well.
Right. Okay, well, thank you all for your time. I'm sorry that we went a little bit over time, so I'm gonna turn it over to Jen or Kim.
Actually, sorry, just real quickly, and I mean that's the slides. I assume those sort of become part of the public record for the CSC, or that you could provide them. And on the last page of those slides are our emails. I'm sure you probably have Naeem's, but you'll have mine and Ricardo's, and we welcome any comments additionally to the ones that we heard here today, because we'd love to be in dialogue with you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Dr. London. Yeah, as soon as we get those, we'll go ahead and post those to the website.
Awesome. Thank you, Naomi and Dr. London, for the presentation. We're excited. We're also researchers here at Harder, so we're excited to hear the outcomes of the study. Thanks for sharing. All right, so moving on to the next agenda item, which is going to be the bulk of our meeting tonight. In response to CSC members, we've invited Caltrans to our meeting tonight to present on the proposed freeway construction project along State Route 99. Afterwards, we'll open it up for questions and discussion. We've set aside ample time for that. However, if you have any burning questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. We'll monitor them, and then you can keep your hands raised, and we will have plenty of time for questions and answers at the end. So with that said, I believe, John, I'll be handing it off to you. Kick us off. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for your invitation to discuss the South Fresno State Route 99 corridor project. My name is John Thomas. I'm the Caltrans Environmental Manager for the project. And tonight I'll be presenting this project along with Chris Gardner, the Caltrans Project Manager, and Ken Romero, Caltrans Air Quality Branch Chief. At this time, I'd like to introduce Diana Gomez. She's the Caltrans District 6 Director. Diana is responsible for all of Caltrans maintenance, operations, and project delivery within Fresno, Madera, Tulare, Kings, and Kern County. She will give a brief introduction, and then she'll be available after the project presentation to answer any of your questions. Diana?
Unmute. Thank you, John, for the introduction. And first, I just want to thank you, the committee, for giving us an opportunity to come and give an update on this project. And so I've been back to Caltrans as the district director now for a year and a half. I came back to Caltrans after spending about 8 years at High Speed Rail. And so in the past couple of weeks, we have seen quite a bit of comments. We've been hearing some of your concerns. And so we're here today to provide an update and also hear any other concerns, answer any questions that you have. And, as far as me from from the director's perspective and also from our director, Mashak. And it's really important for us to communicate, be out communicating with the community, understand your concerns, and seeing how we can address them in our environmental document. So we do appreciate the time. Your comments are really important to us. And so we are really happy to be here to answer any questions. So with that, I'm going to have our team present an update, and then we'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions. So John?
All right. Thank you, Diana. Before we begin the presentation, I'd like to give you all just a quick update on a few items, particularly you've been asking about. We did complete a Spanish translation of the documents. The documents were sent out today for everybody who's requested a copy. In addition, the translate document is also available on the project websites. So if you look on there. Next item, in addition to better facilitate future Caltrans projects within the boundaries of the Fresno AB 617 community.
Sorry, John. Sorry, I hate to interrupt you, but I just saw in the chat that some people are having a hard time hearing, so just want to make sure we troubleshoot that audio.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can, but let's see if anyone else is having issues. Just a reminder.
Hay un ruido en la voz. Todavía se escucha ruido en la voz.
Sí, se escucha como cortado.
Okay, it sounds like there's some
¿Español?
noise.
¿En español o en inglés?
Sorry, I was in the Spanish side.
Sí,
I've been recording it, and it sounds good. I'm not sure. I'll troubleshoot with Lilia. It says it's cutting off. Lilia and Estela are saying the English is, or the Spanish translation is cutting off.
Yo sí.
¿Ya se oye mejor, Lilia?
Sí, Emilia.
Okay.
Okay,
I
thank
think
you.
we're good.
Oh, Tania, perdón. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay, are we good?
All right, thank you. Yes.
We're good.
Okay, all right. Let me back up. So in addition to better facilitate future Caltrans projects within the boundaries of the Fresno AB 617 community, we will be translating future environmental documents into Spanish. We'll make those available for review at the same time we prepare and make the English version available. We are also proposing to have a staff member from our Transportation Planning Division available to this committee as a point of contact who can attend your upcoming meetings. We're hoping this improves communication between our two organizations going forward. Last item, I would like to encourage you to learn more about the Caltrans Clean California program. This is a new program that came out with the most recent state budgets. It provides grants to beautify local neighborhoods, and I think your neighborhood, your area of the city would do very well in this grant process. The deadline for that is February 1st, 2022 to apply for the grant. The website is cleancalifornia.com. Kurt Hatton, who is our program manager for District 6 for Clean California, he's prepared to attend your next meeting to provide you with more information on this program. Okay, Brittany, start the slides. Okay. All right, why are we here tonight? The purpose of tonight's meeting is to explain why we are proposing to build this project, describe the design of each of the alternatives, answer questions you may have about the project, and to also discuss greenhouse gas reduction strategies and capture any greenhouse gas mitigation ideas you may have. Next slide. The proposed project is located on State Route 99 at the southern boundary of the city of Fresno and Fresno County. The project is south of downtown Fresno. Is it not working? Animation? Okay, there we go. Sorry, a little behind. located south of the downtown Fresno, located near the unincorporated community of Melga. Additional points of reference include the California High-Speed Rail Project, which is currently under construction within our project limits. There are 3 existing half interchanges within the project location that will be replaced. One at American Avenue and the other at North Avenue and Cedar Avenues. The North Avenue and Cedar Avenue locations work together to form a complete interchange. The project proposes to reconstruct the half interchanges by expanding them to full interchanges and bringing them up to current Caltrans design standards. There are 2 build alternatives under consideration at each location. During the scoping phase of the project, we looked at replacing the Central Avenue interchange as well. This project no longer includes Central Avenue due to the current lack of funds for work at that location. A separate environmental document would have to be prepared for Central Avenue if the funds are made available in the future. Next slide. The purpose and need for the project defines what the problem is, which we refer to as the need. For this project, it is that the existing on and off ramps, which were built in the 1960s, are confusing to drivers. The asphalt is very deteriorated, and the facility cannot handle the current and projected traffic. The purpose of the project is the solution of the problem. For this project is to replace the existing half interchanges with modern interchanges. Next slide. Project alternatives. There are 4 build and a no build alternative under consideration for this project. At American Avenue, the 2 alternatives are a spread diamond interchange, which we refer to as alternative 1, and a partial cloverleaf interchange, which we refer to as alternative 2. For North Avenue, we're evaluating a modified cloverleaf interchange, which is alternative 2, and a diverging diamond interchange, which is alternative 4. Next slide. Again, in addition to the build alternatives, we also look at the no build alternative. The no build alternative or no action alternative represents the current conditions of any given project. It is what we measure impacts caused by the building the proposed project against. It is possible for a no build alternative to be selected, but this is rarely done in practice. For this project, the no build would leave in place the existing half interchanges, and traffic operations would continue to deteriorate, and there would be no improvements to pavement or pedestrian facilities. At this time, I'm going to hand the presentation over to Chris Gardner. He's the Caltrans project manager. He will go into more detail about each of the proposed designs.
Good evening, everyone. It's best to look at the project's 2 locations from an aerial view. We are going to first look at what's currently out there, and that will provide the background on why the project is needed to correct the condition. Let's first look at the interchange at Route 99 and American Avenue. Route 99 and American Avenue interchange was constructed around 1962. Up to that point, Golden State Boulevard was the former major north-south state route traversing the San Joaquin Valley. You can see Golden State in the upper right portion of the slide. You may also notice how Golden State was constructed parallel to Union Pacific Railroad. When this interchange was constructed, only 2 ramps were provided at American to allow motorists to travel to and from the city of Fresno to the north, which would have been a common occurrence. The 2 ramp configuration was only intended to be the initial design and was more likely a cost-saving measure implemented at that time. It was Caltrans' intention always to build more ramps at this location. To travel to the south on Route 99, a motorist would need to access Route 99 from Chestnut Interchange or to the north, or Clovis Avenue Interchange to the south. Either way requires navigating the county roads to access the freeway. The American Avenue interchange design also does not conform to the current Caltrans design standards, which are contained in the Caltrans Highway Design Manual. The Highway Design Manual is the backbone of how Caltrans constructs roads, or in this case, reconstructs roads. It states, quote, "An interchange is expected to have an on and off ramp for every direction of travel. If an off-ramp does not have a corresponding on-ramp, that off-ramp would be considered an isolated off-ramp. Isolated off-ramps or partial interchanges shall not be used because of the potential for wrong-way movement. In general, interchanges with all ramps connecting with a single cross street are preferred," end quote. Moving on, the existing American Avenue Bridge that spans over Route 99 also has some non-standard features. It has a vertical clearance of 15 feet 3 inches. The current standard up and down 99 is 16 feet 6 inches. Another negative aspect of the interchange is that it does not have any sidewalks through the interchange. It has a sidewalk on the bridge itself, but no connectivity through the interchange past the ramps. Additionally, the shoulders along American Avenue are narrow and do not meet current standards. This makes traveling across the interchange inconvenient for bicyclists. I will also point out at this point that Fresno County is reconstructing the Golden State American Avenue intersection. Construction on that project should be wrapped up by February 2022. Let's jump into the alternatives. In the upcoming slides, we will be looking at the green lines, which represent the proposed work. Next slide. Alternative 1, spread diamond configuration. This is a very typical design for a freeway interchange, especially in rural settings. This alternative adds the 2 missing ramps, which is the southbound on-ramp and the northbound off-ramp. This would enable travel to and from the south, like a local resident going to work in Kingsburg. The 2 existing ramps will be reconstructed and lengthened to provide for better geometrics. The off-ramp will have an additional storage capacity so that vehicles do not stack up on the off-ramp and spill over onto the freeway. The ramps on either side of the interchange connect with American Avenue to form 2 intersections. These intersections are spaced far enough apart from each other so that the operation of one does not negatively affect the operation of the other. You can see that there are more improvements at the intersections that lead to the juvenile justice complex. Mainly additional turn lanes are being added at this intersection. To the right of the screen, the road improvements on American Avenue will match up with the Golden State American intersection improvements constructed by Fresno County. Let me also touch on the right-of-way acquisition requirements. 3 of the 4 ramps fall within areas already controlled by the state. Conversely, the ramp in the upper right of the slide, the northbound on-ramp, would require acquisition of a portion of an orchard and multiple buildings associated with that farming operation. I will also add that Caltrans is considering a variation to this alternative that would see roundabouts constructed at the 2 ramp intersections on American. Caltrans prefers the roundabout variation because it brings an improved level of traffic operations and safety to the ramp intersections. Next slide, please. Alternative 2. This configuration has 6 ramps total, whereas alternative 1 had 4 ramps. This alternative adds 2 on-ramps in a different configuration. There is both a slip ramp and a loop ramp that service both directions of the freeway. Let me provide an example of how this would work. Take, for example, someone would like to head back into Fresno. If you are proceeding west on American Avenue, you would take the slip ramp. If you are going eastbound, then you would take the loop ramp. The advantage here is that a motorist heading east does not have to make a left turn, crossing over the opposing direction of travel to enter the northbound on-ramp.
Hi, Chris.
Feature that also, yep.
Hey, Chris, it's Jem. Really quickly, would you mind using your mouse to guide through what specific ramp you're talking about? It might just help us, the visual people, understand this graph a bit better.
Yeah, let me, someone else was controlling the slides remotely. Let me see if I can get this working here.
You should be able to use the annotate function, Chris. If you go to view options on your Zoom control, there's an annotate function and it allows you to have a mouse. And that way it'll help us see what you're talking about. So I'm using it right now.
Okay. I think I have control of the mouse.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, just to walk over that real quickly again. If you were heading back into Fresno, you have the advantage if you're going, see this is eastbound, to use this loop ramp here. And if you were going westbound, you can use this loop ramp. So that is a efficiency over the other design, and it also is a built-in safety factor. So we are talking about now some of the common features of this alternative. The first is the sidewalks. The existing interchange crossroad does not have any sidewalks. So sidewalks would be added to both sides of American Avenue and extend just past the ramped intersections. Additionally, a wide shoulder would be added to American Avenue. It would have a wide, excuse me, it would have a white stripe separating it from through traffic. This would accommodate cyclists in a better configuration over the existing option. Next slide. Great. Okay. Now we're looking at the North Cedar interchange. Get your bearings. You can see North Avenue. Get my mouse. This is North Avenue, and over to the left we have Orange Avenue going up from top to bottom. And over here we have Cedar Avenue. You can also see Golden State Boulevard and the Union Pacific Railroad constructed here, as well as the Burlington Northern Santa Fe line comes in through here. And then we also have the high-speed rail. So this is actually a really unique picture in that it captures just the different modes of transportation through the valley over the years, beginning with the railroads entering into the valley. And then Golden State was the first state route going north and south, and then Route 99. And then you have what's going to be the future. You have the high-speed rail. So these 5 transportation facilities all converging in this area is actually pretty unique. All right. North Cedar Interchange was constructed around 1963. In the 1960s, the North Cedar Interchange was constructed as a split interchange, which means half of the ramps are connected to Cedar and half of the ramps are connected to North. This design may have been common in the 1960s, but this is an antiquated interchange design that is not implemented by Caltrans anymore. The reason being, it does not operate efficiently due to the fact that you have to navigate local roads to access on-ramps that you may be looking for. As traffic volumes along the 99 corridor have increased over the years, this type of configuration becomes problematic and inconvenient. It also goes against guidance from a highway design manual that was touched on before, which states, quote, interchanges with all ramps connecting with a single crossroad are preferred, end quote. Why is this preferred? In some regards, it's a matter of convenience. Say a traveler heading from Sacramento to Bakersfield stops off at the Panda Express at North and Orange. They get their bite to eat and they want to continue on their way. To get back on Route 99 southbound, they would have to navigate down Parkway Drive to access the southbound on-ramp off of Cedar Avenue. I'm sure many of you have experienced similar challenges when you go to someplace like LA or San Francisco. And you may admit it's just more convenient when you get off at an interchange. It's just really convenient to get right back on right next right near the off-ramp. Another issue this interchange currently experiences is traffic backing up from the off-ramp and carrying over to the freeway, which is an undesirable situation. This often happens during the rush hour commute. This problem stems first from the current off-ramp only has one lane, and second, North Avenue only has 2 lanes each direction. Or excuse me, 1 lane each direction, 2 lanes total. So the off-ramp here and over at Cedar only have 1 lane. So this adds to some congestion that's currently going on during rush hour commute. Now let's look at the next slide, which shows alternative 2. This is a partial cloverleaf configuration. This is a similar concept to what we saw at American with alternative 2. The only difference is the number of lanes on each of the roads and ramps. This interchange has a total of 6 ramps, 4 on-ramps, and 2 off-ramps. This would meet a traveler's expectation in that it provides for all ramp movements at one crossroad. When the loop on-ramp and the off-ramp connect to North Avenue, pull this up, there would be a signalized intersection at this location where my mouse is, and you would have one on either side of the freeway. There are also improvements along North Avenue, starting with the intersection at Orange, right here, and continuing through until you get to the intersection at Cedar, and some improvements down Cedar as well as east of Cedar. This is mainly additional turn lanes. The bridge at North Avenue crossing over 99 would also be replaced due to a deficient vertical clearance. Continuing on, you will see that Parkway Drive is severed at North Avenue, and it's realigned to connect to Orange Avenue. And the reason this is that it would have connectivity at North Avenue too close to the southbound on-ramp. So we needed to relocate it down to where it connects at Orange, just above the Ponding Basin. All right, next slide. Okay, this last alternative is alternative 4. It's a diverging diamond interchange. And admittedly, this looks a little strange. It's a relatively new type of interchange design being implemented by other states. There is just one instance of this type of interchange being constructed in California, and it's located in Manteca on Route 120 at Union Road. We will show a video clip of that interchange in just a moment. Let's now dive into the details of this layout, starting with the general shape. This interchange is very compact. The advantage with this is it requires less right-of-way. It has 4 ramps, but you can see right where the ramps connect to North Avenue, each ramp has a branch. There's an inward branch and an outward branch. Let me walk you through a scenario of how you would proceed through this interchange. If you were on North Avenue proceeding east, you would come to a point where you would swerve off to the right, and then you would be presented with an option. You can either take the southbound on-ramp, or you would continue to a signalized intersection. And it's very strange what happens at this intersection. As you pass through it, you do something very unique, and this is what really is unorthodox about this interchange design. In a normal driving situation, your opposing direction of travel is always to your left. So you're traveling down the road, and the cars going in the opposite direction are to your left. In this case, that direction of travel is flipped. So you are on, you're again traveling eastbound. You would be on this top portion, and cars traveling the other direction would be to the right. It's very unconventional, but it works. In this section between the inner branches, my mouse seemed to disappear. You can see this inner branch coming as a southbound off-ramp. Traffic proceeding east on North Avenue would merge with this first branch. And then you would have this diverge point where you would go northbound and take this northbound on-ramp. Or you can continue to proceed straight and you'd come up to the second signalized intersection. From here, traffic would cross back over and you would result with the normal flow of traffic. And then from here, traffic heading northbound wanting to exit 99 would then merge with the eastbound traffic on North Avenue. We'll have a video that we'll show in just a moment, and that will hopefully provide some clarity on how this works. I do want to touch on, sorry, my mouse is lost control for a moment. I do want to touch on how pedestrians would cross over this. There has been some concern expressed for pedestrian movements. Pedestrian, if they're wanting to continue east, they would first cross over this ramp intersection in a crosswalk, just like there are a million of these across the state and across the country, just crossing over the ramp intersection. And then you would come to the signalized intersection. From this point, they would cross in the crosswalk on a green light with the same direction of traffic that is adjacent to them. But then there would be something, again, unconventional. Pedestrians would actually be in the median here between two opposing directions of travel. And they would continue on in the path that they want, and they would come to that second signalized intersection, and they would cross over at that point in the crosswalk along with the direction of traffic that they're going with. And then when they would come to that other ramp terminal right here, and they would use the crosswalk to cross over here. All this occurs at both speeds. All right. I think at this point we'll show a video. Need to go to the next slide. What you will be seeing here is a short video of the Divergent Diamond Interchange in Manteca on Route 120 and Union Road. This video shows both aerial footage and a visual model. Right away, you will notice the intersection where the traffic direction switches sides. And as the rendering of the camera pans around the intersection, you will see how it operates. This red line shows you how a car would travel from one direction to the other, and this blue line is the reversing direction. And then the green arrows show how ramp movements would work during this the movement. This orange line is for a multi-purpose trail. I should point out that the proposal that we have at North does not have the multi-purpose trail. And then that was just another video of the actual Divergent Diamond in operation. And again, this is up in Manteca. Okay, next slide. Project construction and cost. This slide covers a few aspects of the project. The first bullet is total project cost. Project cost can be broken down into three main components. The first is construction cost. This includes the amount the contractors paid in addition to the support cost associated with managing the construction contract. This is the bulk of the overall project cost. The second is right-of-way cost, which includes utility relocations, right-of-way acquisitions, business relocations, and building demolitions. Third is preliminary engineering. This is the effort required to bring the project from a conceptual design to a finished set of plans for the construction contract. It also involves the significant effort required to environmentally clear the project in conformance with state and federal statutes. The next bullet is construction. At this time, the general estimate is that this project will be completed within a 30-month time frame once construction begins. There are a few factors that could increase or decrease the 30-month estimate. How the construction activities are staged in relationship to how traffic is maintained during construction is a big factor. At the moment, the plan is to target the beginning of construction in late 2024. The third bullet deals with project funding. It is very common for a project of this size to have multiple funding sources. Right now, there are 3 funding sources on this project. The first is Fresno County Transportation Authority, or FCTA, Measure C funds. This is a local fund. This comes from Fresno County's half-cent sales tax measure. The ballot measure was approved by Fresno County voters in 2006. The second is Regional Transportation Mitigation Funds. This is Fresno County developer-derived funds. This is also a local fund source. The third funding source on this project is the State Transportation Improvement Program, or what we call the STIP. The STIP will use regional funds under the direction of Fresno Council of Governments. This is considered state funding. And then while there is no direct federal funding on the project at the moment, there is federal aid. There is a federal aid component to the STIP. So in essence, there is some federal funds on the project. And that is it for this slide. I will turn it back over to John at this point.
All right, thank you, Chris. All right, and environmental process. This slide depicts the general environmental process.
John, there's a feedback. Are you in?
Everybody on mute in here?
Everyone on mute.
Okay, we'll try that again. All right, this slide depicts the general environmental process that this project is currently going through. Starting at the top of the diagram, we conducted preliminary studies in 2018 after a need for the project was determined to come up with a rough range of alternatives for each location. After that, we conducted a public scoping meeting in 2019, which many of you probably attended. We held that at the center there in Malaga. We reviewed all of your comments, adjusted designs, and conducted environmental studies for the next 18 months or so, analyzing the impacts of each alternative. The draft environmental document was prepared, summarizing all the findings, and then in October, we published the document. We held a public hearing for the project on November 4th, 2021, and then we circulated that document till December 3rd. Again, just a reminder for those of you who requested a Spanish translation, the comment period will close on January 28th, 2022. After the comment period closes, we will review all the comments we receive from all of you and federal, state, and local agencies. We'll evaluate the pros and cons of each alternative and then make a recommendation to the Caltrans director on which alternative would be best. The final document will be prepared and the official agency decision will be posted with the State Clearinghouse. At the end of this process, Caltrans will begin final design of the chosen alternative, which will lead into right-of-way acquisition and then ultimately construction of the project, which you see on the bottom of the slide there. All right, at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Ken Romero. He's a air quality branch chief here in our Fresno office, and he's going to discuss a few things about air quality. Thanks, Ken.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, got it. Great. So my name's Ken Romero. I am the air quality senior here in Fresno. We cover central region of California, so we cover quite a bit. I just want to go over a couple of slides just to kind of give you an overview of how air quality works in our process of transportation and kind of go over that with you because I know it's a little different and stationary source and mobile source is a little bit different. So let me just go over this real quick with you. So basically, the Federal Clean Air Act and the California Clean Air Act and the NEPA and CEQA require transportation planning and project development to consider air quality as part of the environmental review process. Caltrans coordinates with federal, state, and regional transportation planning agencies and local air districts to address transportation-related air quality issues. Basically, that would be Fresno COG in our area, San Joaquin Air District, and our local partners. The department develops policies, guidance, and tools to conduct air quality analysis in compliance with the federal and state regulations. Caltrans also initiates and participates in air quality researches and studies to advance its scientific knowledge and state of practice on the subject. So let's go to the next slide, which basically will break down how we put together our air quality study reports.
And
so, go ahead.
Just a quick reminder, Ken, that we do simultaneous translation. So if you could just slow down a bit before transitioning to slides, that would be great.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you. That's okay.
Okay. So basically, our air quality study should include a basic project description documenting project design assumptions, such as future design year, which is usually about a 20-year design year. So typically, we will come up with alternatives that our projects can handle our traffic projections out 20 years. We also do an interim year, such as an open to traffic year, that are relevant to air quality analysis. The project description should include a brief description of the alternatives under consideration. Make sure it is consistent with the environmental document. Regional meteorology and climate discussion is also included. We include a description of the area's topography as well as pertinent to the discussion. Regulatory framework, provide a description of the applicable regulations as well as the agencies such as the Air District and the MPOs that are involved with the air quality in the area or region. And as I mentioned, that would be Fresno COG and San Joaquin Air District for our area. Also outline regulations on the federal, state, local levels. Include a table outlining air quality standards on both federal and state levels. Provide area and affected environment. Include monitor locations and data, area conformity designations, and classifications, location of sensitive receptors. Results of the air quality analysis include a description of methodologies and assumptions used. Potential impacts of the project on air quality, direct, indirect, temporary, and permanent. And that would include such things as construction, air quality impacts, as well as operational impacts to the project area. We have potential avoidance, minimization, and mitigation measures, which we'll talk about as far as greenhouse gases goes in that subject matter. We have project level conformity documentation if the project is in an area subject to conformity requirements under the Federal Clean Air Act. This project and basically the San Joaquin Air District is under requirements that have to meet conformity. We are in non-attainment for particulate matter 2.5. That's the specific pollutant that we look at for conformity. So we are under that requirement. And if it's a project that we consider a project that is regionally significant, we have to get conformity determination from federal highways. This project falls under that requirement. So we do have to follow conformity, project level conformity, as well as regional conformity requirements for this project with the coordination with EPA as well. And then we also include all our emission modeling results in the analysis to make sure that we are transparent in how we come up with our modeling results and how we identify impacts in comparison with baseline, as well as the build versus no build alternatives. And again, this is a way we can come later back to this. If you guys want to get into the question and answer session, this will at least give you some ideas on what things we look at and how we organize things, because I know this had come up in a past public meeting we had with you. And that's it.
Thank you, Caltrans team. Oh, is that your last slide?
That's it for me.
Oh, sorry. Was there another speaker?
Just for my sake.
Yes, yeah, I'll try to wrap this up. I know you guys, we want to save some time for question and answers. So I'll just go through these last slides pretty quickly. Okay, greenhouse gas reduction strategies. Just bottom line up front, this project is proposed to cause an increase in greenhouse gas. And so that is a concern for us. So we are looking at greenhouse gas reduction strategies because currently there's no way to accurately measure project level impacts. Therefore, that's why we have to assume that we will have a significant impact on greenhouse gas for this project because the technology does not exist to isolate this specific project from everything else in the world, obviously. So these are several measures that we are currently looking at in the document to reduce greenhouse gas impacts from this project. Just really quickly, electronic vehicle charging stations, complete streets, which will increase pedestrian walkability and bicycling through the area. It would include, class 2 bike lanes through the facility and improve walking. There are RTS elements there, the Intelligent Transportation System, that's basically synchronizing all the lights on the ramps and around the project so that there's less idling for cars, so that we're keeping those vehicles moving faster instead of polluting in that area. It makes them more efficient. And then the last item there, we are looking at roundabouts, specifically at American Avenue. And again, that will keep vehicles moving and not idling in one place. So we cross-referenced what we did in our environmental document with your community emission reduction program, which you see here. And we looked at your top sources of concern you had from that. You guys know this well, so I just highlight that we did look at that, and we looked at where we had commonality between our environmental document and your existing plan. So several of the features that we looked at where we had overlap with your plan, again, were the complete streets features. So again, improving walkability through your neighborhoods, road improvements, and those include new asphalt, making it smoother for cars so they are more efficient.
Excuse me, John.
Yep.
Excuse me, John. Could you slow down a little because you're like talking real fast?
All right. I'll slow down a little bit. Road improvements, which is part of our complete streets, would include more space for bicyclists to ride, and then also electric vehicle charging stations. We noticed you had that in your CERT plan as well. So these are areas where we have commonality between our environmental documents and your existing plan, right? Next slide, please. The mitigation recommendations, these are ideas, things that we think we could help with. They were also in your plan. They include things like your urban greening to reduce heat island mitigation, or reduce heat islands, I should say. You have a vegetative barrier RFP out, I believe. So we've looked into that as potentially a way we could assist you with that, potentially providing funding to your RFP if you guys already have plans on where to put that barrier in different locations. And in general, we just looked at things that we know we can do. We can provide funding for certain things, and we can provide landscaping, trees, and things like that. Okay, so next slide, please. So the next steps in this, firstly, all the comments we received on the environmental documents we've received so far, and then and the ones we expect to receive in Spanish, on the Spanish version, we will respond to all those in the final environmental document. This meeting will be summarized in Chapter 4, which you look at the document is our comments and coordination section. And then any mitigation recommendations you have from this, and if you know, I don't expect you to have them tonight necessarily, but you could email those. Potentially we could set up more smaller scale meetings to get more mitigation ideas from you. We can incorporate those into the final environmental document. And then the final environmental determination of the project, we expect to have that by June 2022. That's when we'll release the document, published in the State Clearinghouse. And then I'll just end with, again, Clean California, that's coming up soon, and that is February 1st, 2022. There's the website for you, and we are planning to have Kurt Hatton be at your next meeting if you have time for him. He can give you a presentation on that program. Okay, next. And question and answers, again, the variety of us this evening available, and also our district director is available for Q&A. All right, that's all we have.
Thank you, Caltrans team, for that informative presentation. Before we open it for discussion, I just want to put a few reminders for our group agreements, and then also open up the space for questions.
I can do that, Jim. I was going to say thank you,
go for
Caltrans team, for that presentation. It was very helpful to this CSC steering committee, and I just wanted to open up for questions and just remind you guys of our bylaws that we reviewed at the beginning of the meeting. So I can start with whoever has their hand up first.
Kimberly, since we're having connection with the Spanish channel, I wonder if we can start with them just in case we lose connection. Do any folks on the Spanish channel have questions?
No, se ve muy interesante. Estaba mirando el mapa que nos pusieron de arriba. Déjeme le bajo el otro teléfono porque me están llamando acá en el teléfono también. El mapa que pusieron del satélite se me hizo muy interesante, la verdad. Mirar cómo pasa el puente es algo que va a fluir el tráfico más que nada.
Well, this is Diana. If there's no other questions, I just want to let you know that we'll continue to meet with the public, the community, as we continue to move. Oh, we do have questions.
Yes, we do. Ivanka,
Okay.
You had your hand raised first.
Yeah, I also have a ton of questions as well. And where's
okay,
the
Lisa,
English?
I will give right to you after Nayamin. I see Ivanka's hand was raised first.
Okay, the English translation of what was just said in Spanish, please.
Yes, Tanya or Reina, can either of you provide the English translation for Lilia's comment, please? Thank you, Lisa. Oh, we can't hear you, Tanya. She just sent me a direct message. We can't hear you on the channel.
Sorry. Is Tanya here?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay. I don't know what's going on with technology today. I'm so sorry. I was interpreting, the microphone was on. She was saying that she didn't have any questions. And then it seems very interesting how you show on the map, how the satellite show the images going over the bridge and how the traffic is going to flow more effectively. And it was very interesting for them to see that.
Thank you for the translation. Okay, Ivaka, I see your hand is raised.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the presentation.
Perdón.
Can I go ahead?
Yes.
Okay, I heard the feedback. The first thing I wanted to ask is the presentation given tonight compared to the presentation beforehand, specifically around the environmental process, is still of concern when I don't know, have you guys actually updated the environmental impact report? When you were saying we wanted to give you updates tonight, are any of those updates related to any changes in the actual report, or was that just updates regarding extending time for the Spanish translation?
Yeah, let me tackle that. They were so the updates to the document itself have not occurred yet. After we finish reading all of your comments, there will be updates to the document itself, and you know, and then those will be published in the final environmental document. The updates this evening were I know additional information we'd received from various sources. I just wanted to get out to everybody.
Okay, because then I think that I'm going to repeat some of the main concerns that I had since the last time that they presented to community. And that really is around the air quality study report. Ken was stating what goes into and what is considered in this report. And if you wanted to, you could, for everyone's sake, you could go back to that page that stated the air quality study report regarding the description of the alternatives, the regulatory framework with the regs and agencies. But some of the things stated, oh no, my dog's here a siren. I'm so sorry, shoot. One of the main things that I was concerned with was how there is still the impacts. And in that initial report, it doesn't state that there are any sensitive receptors. So in this, everything that's listed here, yes, we want to see, but everything that's actually written in the report so far in the draft is not, these are not truly acknowledged. So that's a major concern. For example, I don't know if the pages has changed because I don't know if you guys have worked on it, but on page 27 through 28, it states there's no neighborhoods in or close to the project area and that no minority or low-income populations were identified in the project area and that the closest residential neighborhoods are over 2 miles away. Yet in reality, there's over 10, whether it's the mobile home park, Kawa, Malaga, Daleville, West Fresno, Roy Avenue, all of those are under 2 miles. So I'm concerned that the way this is written right now is ignoring the true facts that this is not only in 617, but it's being written as if this isn't going to cause any environmental impacts, except for maybe there will be an impact on air quality because of greenhouse gases. So when you're saying there's an update tonight, I want everybody on my steering committee here to understand it's written so far with a lot of untruths in there, and that you're ignoring the main facts of the sensitive receptors. Can
I jump in really quick?
Yeah.
Okay, so we did, that was a mistake. It was not 2 miles. The project limits we looked at, I believe, were 1/2 mile. So that was a mistake in that section. And we have, again, received a lot of your comments about that section. So we will be revising in adding more information into that section. Obviously, it hasn't happened between now and the last time we spoke last month, but there will be quite a bit of changes to that section. So,
and it's not just that we want to see changes of acknowledging. Yeah, that's
Sure.
the first major step, is acknowledge the truth of what the impacts will be on the communities that are in this 617. But then even more importantly will be mitigation measures. And one EV charging station isn't going to cut it. So if you're talking about mitigation measures, it's not just about what we are doing within our community emission reduction plan measures. Yes, that is a good starting point. But at what point will Caltrans not just give a little bit of money, but actually understand that you are bringing in heavy duty, you are giving access to increasing the heavy duty trucks into an area that is, number one, already overburdened. Number two is a 617 selected area, and there was a lot of competing cities. And for us to rise to the occasion to be chosen in the first year means we are already in really bad shape. And number three, all of this is happening at a time when your project with Caltrans needs to be also looking at the other plans and projects that are going on in this area. And Caltrans shouldn't be trying to move so quickly on this project when we have the South Central specific plan that is not finished. You are within the 617 area, but under the 617 area, CERT measure is the truck study. So if you start putting $120 million first into a project that Caltrans wants to run before that truck study is finished, then it's highly likely that the truck study that will show the truth of overburdened area might be drowned out because the amount of investment that Caltrans just put into a project. So all of these things need to be done in a very cohesive way without one getting ahead of the other. And that's why we wanted you to come to this space, because at a state agency, you're coming into a local area that has so much going on that it needs to be paused until all of these can cohesively move forward together. And I'll stop there because I know all my colleagues here have a lot to say too.
Thank you, Ivanka, for those questions. Very good questions. I see Nyameen has her hand up. I'll go to you next. And then after Nyameen will be Lisa. And then after Lisa will be Lilia.
Thank you. So I definitely echo all the comments that Ivanka made, but I do have a very specific question. How and where did you publish or requested for public comments? We were very surprised that you guys were invited by the Air District to present to us when you 2 years ago in person, when we were still meeting at Banco Elementary, and we got a 30-minute presentation, very detailed presentation. And then when we should have had received that same opportunity to know that there was the time for public comments, we didn't find out. If it wasn't for one of our colleagues who brought this to our attention, when there was hardly any time to submit any comments or to read thoroughly the document, we would have been left in the dark. And there has to be better coordination and communication of all these agencies, including you, Caltrans, so that whatever projects you're taking on, that we're trying to help improve the air quality in this area, are aware of it and are able to participate and allow other residents of the area to participate. And that was not a possibility. So it's a question and a complaint, if you will.
All right. Well, let me address that really quick. Yes. So I think, you were noticed about the notice of preparation in 2019. I think that's the one you mentioned that was in person back before COVID in the Malaga area at the center there. So in regards to the document itself, it was circulated. The notice of availability was circulated in the Fresno Bee on the day of the notice went out. and on the morning of the public hearing on November 4th. In addition, we did utilize our public information officer. We had Twitter, we did a press release, and we did other social media via the Caltrans social media system. We acknowledge we can do better, and that's why again we will be providing a representative from our transportation planning division to be available to your steering committee, so that in the future, we can improve our communication with your organization.
Any follow-up questions to his answer, Naomi?
Oh, thank you. But I think it's way too late for this particular project, right? The comments in English are already closed, and luckily I'm bilingual. I can submit mine in Spanish, but not everybody here has that privilege.
Thank you. Lisa, you're next.
John Thomas, just to correct your statement, the reason why you're here is because of me. The reason why the committee even knows about this project is me, because when Caltrans came to us, and I believe it was Neil Bretz, he was leading the presentation 2 years ago, they said, well, we're going to communicate with the committee. And I'm like, I don't, I trust you guys as far as I can throw you. So I made sure and really, really insisted that my address was given to you guys. I wrote it out, and I got notification of the document 2 weeks after it was actually published and available. And several of our committee members, I reached out to them and asked them if they wanted copies of the actual document. And I thank you for providing me that document. Now, in regards to my comments, I have about 10 of them. The first one is, I'm glad to see that there is some change in behavior with the department. However, it's almost a little bit too late. For example, you come before us today, and you're talking about how future environmental documents within the footprint of AB 617 will be translated into Spanish. Well, that's great, but once AB 617 disappears, you live in a community with a high percentage of Latinos and foreign-born speakers and bilingual speakers, and this should be standard procedure. This should never, ever be a missed opportunity like it has occurred right now in this specific project. Diane Gomez, thank you for assigning staff. That should have happened 2 years ago. As for your offer for the Clean California program with the deadline of February 1st, typically our committee meets mid-January. So if we were to, that's just an impossible deadline for us to meet. And, John, we've been talking since early November, and at no point in time did this program come up, because even if we had known about this grant program in November, we possibly could provide something. We possibly could actually apply for it. But, if you come to us in January with maybe 2 or 3 weeks, that's just a really hard push for Air District staff who, has a lot of these CSCs to deal with. So it's just a little insulting. Chris Gardner, you're up. When you're designing interchanges, you're designing for a 20-year plan, a 20-year design year standard. By upgrading these interchanges, what you're really doing is a de facto of increasing capacity. And as you're increasing capacity, you're increasing trucks in this area that will directly affect our truck reroute study. So why, Ms. Gomez, do you want to increase capacity on this project and impact the communities by creating more opportunities for them to breathe bad air? My second question in Chris Gardner's presentation is if these interchanges have been in non-compliance for 20, 30 years, I mean, they're 60-year-old interchanges and they've been out of compliance forever, what is the big deal about giving the public the additional time of January 22nd for public comments and extending it? Are you so vested in the milestone of December that you hear this outcry from this committee and the broken promises from Caltrans that you cannot give us that additional time? My third question in regards to Chris Gardner's presentation is, you talk about bicycles transversing, going over the overcross. How many bicycles currently, have you did bicycle counts? And what is the department going to do to encourage bicycle traffic on these interchanges? Is there a plan? Is your bicycle coordinator for the district willing to participate and encourage bicycle usage in this area? And what is the department's commitment to bicycle travel in a safe manner? Fourth, roundabouts. Those roundabouts. I had a problem with the roundabouts, especially in Fresno County. Caltrans engineers tend to design roundabouts which meet the highway design manual. Then they get tweaked. Then they send exceptions, design exceptions up to Sacramento. And when you do the design exceptions or you tweak the roundabouts, that's due because of political forces. How are you going to ensure that political forces aren't going to co-opt community safety in this area regarding the roundabouts, if that is the chosen alternative? Then the question on North and Cedar Avenues. Well, the diverging the Diamond Interchange, I'm sorry, but I just really had to laugh at that one, because according to my sources, both out of Sacramento and in your office, the county isn't going to sign off on the Diamond Interchange. So why is the district pushing it, other than wanting to be one of the trendsetters because this is the newest and latest thing? And also, have you been out on America Avenue when there's zero visibility fog and drive and think about how you're going to be swerving traffic? I just think of me driving out there in the fog, middle of the day, middle of the night. You never know when I'm out and about. And I just see that as a death trap design due to the fog that hits us. Then also too, in all your designs that you have put forward, this is the only one with any sort of trail type that is added to the project. Where are the other trail type add-ons, and why is it just this? And did Caltrans already predetermine this is the alternative that they want? Because you have to remember, I did 20 years in Caltrans. I know how you guys think. Not accusing anybody, but I know how you think. Now, John Thomas, you talk about environmental process. Could you please tell us what was the public comments and review that were given to you by the Air District? Because I'm really interested in what their comments in regards to this environmental document were. Ken, I just want to say hi. That's it with air quality. I'm going to let everybody else talk about air quality because, I'm kind of more of a design girl. Complete street sinks. Let me go through my notes real quick because I wrote a lot of notes. And mitigation measures. That was my final thing about the mitigation that John Thomas brought up. I'm trying to make sure I got your quote right, John. We think we can help with, which was a very interesting statement from you. When you come to a community group and you say, think we can help with, we're telling you how you can help us by extending the comment period, by working with us and integrating the project into the truck reroute study and the impacts of changing what you're going to change. You're doing it on safety, but it realistically is about capacity. And the last thing I had was, once again, the Clean California is a nice offer, but you're coming to us so late in the process. It is a pipe dream that we can't really apply for unless people start now. And it's a week before Christmas. And I don't think anybody else is going to want one more meeting. That's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Does anyone from Caltrans staff want to respond to anything that Lisa said before we move on?
Oh, excuse me, before I forgot one more thing. And it's actually very, very important. It's about, Diane, I asked you for a copy of your environmental, what was it called? Your policy on environmental justice and environmental equity with the communities, because I understand your district for the past 6 months have been working on that. Do you have any draft of what that is, or can you elaborate to this group what that exactly entails as a district policy and how you interact with the community to bring us equity and justice? Thank you.
Kim, I don't want to say much, just that if Jen or someone can read Isabel's comment in the chat, because I think it's important.
Okay, thank you. Can someone read Isabel's comment in the chat before we go to Lilia?
Sure, I'll read it right now. So Isabel commented, if what Naimeen and Lisa say is true, we as a community are not informed about all the projects. Hopefully they will take us into account and give us all the information we need to know. Thank you, Isabel.
Thank you, Isabel. Lilia, you're next.
Sí, retomando lo de hace ratito, ¿han considerado en un futuro ustedes poner puentes aquí en el centro de Fresno, principalmente donde transita el AB 617? Porque yo he mirado cuántos autos se quedan en líneas largas esperando que pase el tren, principalmente aquí por la calle esta Butler, la calle la Fresno, la calle viene siendo la Tulare, viene siendo la Kings Canyon, viene todas esas avenidas que son bien transitadas saliendo del 41, siempre están con tránsito cuando lamentablemente está el tren pasando.
Can we get translation on her question, please?
Guys hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah.
Además es una pena que sí es cierto lo que dicen, lamentablemente quisiéramos estar informados de todo lo que está pasando, principalmente de estas reuniones que tuvieron el 4 de octubre. No estuvimos enterados, quisiéramos saber quiénes fueron los públicos o la comunidad que participó con ustedes, porque al menos nosotros no estuvimos enterados de esto.
Yes, just taking what we were commenting before, are you considering in the future maybe building some bridges here in downtown Fresno, because where all the AB 617 community goes through, because there are long lines of cars and people waiting when the train is passing by. Let's say here in Fresno and different avenues in Kings Canyon, all those avenues. Also, what kind of community was participating with you in the meeting that you had on October 4th? Because we weren't aware of that public meeting.
Can Caltrans staff please answer Lilia's question or have a response to her question, please?
I'll go ahead and answer a portion of it. From my understanding of the question, she asked about railroad structures or a railroad and then grade separation or bridges over the railroad. And she referenced downtown Fresno. This would actually fall under the city of Fresno's jurisdiction. They're the ones who would be more able to answer that question. Caltrans in that downtown Fresno area is separated from the railroad, so we really don't have any involvement. And then she also referenced an October 4th meeting. I'm not sure.
I believe she meant the November 4th meeting that we were all attending that this committee was not aware of. So she wants to know what type of community engagement that was done because this committee and other residents in the area were not informed.
Okay. To piggyback on what John had answered before, an advertisement was taken out in the Fresno Bee in both English and Spanish. That is what we have historically done, and realizing that the local newspaper is not widely distributed as it once was 10 years ago when everybody had access to that. We took some extraordinary steps. We engaged our social media accounts. So a tweet went out when the notice for the environmental document, the draft environmental document was made. So that first tweet occurred on October 14th, the same day that an advertisement went out on the Fresno Bee. And then a couple of days before the meeting, so this would have been November 2nd approximately, we did another tweet, another social media engagement. And then the day of the meeting, we also did a tweet. We use social media for this reason. We do media releases. So we try to engage the news in this, the local news, ABC 30, Channel 26, these local news agencies. We let them know that there are projects out there, and we use them because they often go out to the community and inform people that there are public meetings. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It doesn't appear that they picked this up and made it a community thing. So, but John had indicated there's a little bit of lessons learned, and working forward, we are going to put a Caltrans representative in this AB 617 community steering. They'll attend the meeting, so hopefully in the future we'll have a more robust communication.
Thank you for that. I would just like to say true, authentic community engagement just doesn't happen on social media, especially when a lot of our residents do not have social media. So reaching out to the city or reaching out to this the Air District to get a list of our steering committee members and our residents living in the area would have been helpful, so we can know about the meeting and being able to be present and provide comments. Because now it looks like this project is going to move forward without any public comment, and that the translation just got done for the Spanish residents that are on this committee. And it's just really shameful that this happened. We complain about this all the time. So just a little mental note for Caltrans: whenever you're going to do something like that, make sure that you have translation already available, and make sure that you're not just using the Fresno Bee and using social media. Work within the city, your local city council members, your local districts, or however it is, to make sure that you reach the community that's going to be impacted by your projects. And I will go to Scott so he can answer the second part of Lilia's question.
Oh, good evening, everyone. So I just wanted to speak briefly to the question about railroad grade separations. So working in partnership with the California High-Speed Rail Authority, that project, which had an EIR, went through public review, will be grade separating the crossings that will remain open along the high-speed rail corridor. So I can quickly go through those. At Central Avenue and the BNSF rail line, there will be an overpass constructed for Central between Cedar and Maple to eliminate those railroad delays and any potential for crossing and accidents. Going north, Church Avenue will be grade separated for the railroad. In downtown Fresno, Ventura will have an underpass at the UP and high-speed rail crossing. Likewise, Tulare Street will have an underpass. And then going further north, also Olive Avenue will be grade separated along with McKinley Avenue at the Union Pacific rail crossing. Lastly, City of Fresno is in very early stages of planning and design work for a railroad grade separation at Blackstone and McKinley. And I'm glad to answer any additional questions.
Thank you, Scott. I want to do a time check. We are scheduled to end in 5 minutes, but I knew this discussion was going to be long, so I just want to make sure that our residents and our steering committee members are okay with going a little bit over because we still have to take public comment.
Kimberly, can I clarify something in regard to the notification? When the Caltrans engineers came and presented this project to us 2 years ago at that elementary school, I made sure that they not only took my address to notify me, which I got 2 weeks after the document was published, but also too, I asked them very specifically, and I repeated at least once or twice that the Caltrans would have direct communication and they would directly notify each and every member of this committee. And that was never done. And it really kind of speaks to the dysfunctional relationship between Caltrans and the Air District, and how come, it's something as simple as stuffing envelopes with the notice and having the Air District label it with our addresses and mailing it out would have solved this problem. And I know it has to be in the notes, because my former job was public outreach of environmental documents for Caltrans. So, when you have a community of interest like this committee, they're supposed to take communications with us incredibly seriously and also keep us within the loop. And that wasn't done. Diane,
so this is
Diane, let me finish really quick. And once again, I'm really interested in hearing your answer regarding the environmental equity and environmental justice policy of Caltrans. Thank you.
And it sounds like Diana, Kimberly, sorry, one thing, it sounds like there's a lot of responses that are needed from Caltrans. And what I'm hearing is that moving forward as an action item, there will be a Caltrans liaison or representative that joins these meetings to provide some of this transparency. So it sounds like we might need Diana for you to come back and answer some of these questions.
Yeah.
Right now, we are running out of time. So I'd like to make sure that Ivanka gets her question in before you do respond, Diana.
Yeah, Diana, Ms. Gomez, I just want to confirm that you're the person, or who is the person that has the power and the authority to extend this due date and extend the date to January 22nd only for the Latino speaking folks, because it is not fair to this committee when, as Lisa, you just heard her say, since 2019, we knew this group should have already been followed up with, because your team came to us that long ago in the initial stages. So any excuse of advertisement on Twitter and a poorly used newspaper doesn't cut it for right now. I'm not looking for as we move forward. I'm looking at you tonight as if you're the one that has the authority to extend that deadline to January 22nd for this whole committee, not just the Spanish speakers. This is the first time you're getting to hear from us when we rightfully should have been informed and in conversation and communication with you before now. I feel very upset right now that you all sat here, and because you have a history with Lisa Flores, and she will, and thank goodness, will put you on a hot seat and be very direct with you about the details, that you felt like you could just ignore all those comments that she just made. So yes, we're out of time, but one thing that you should be able to respond to us right now, if you're the one that has the authority to extend that to January 22nd, why can't you, or will you not do that after everything you've heard from us tonight? This is a very disrespected community steering committee based on how you are approaching this group. So if you're the one that has that power, why won't you do so? Or is it really that silly milestone that we keep hearing Lisa talk about? Because if that's all it is, if it's in your power to change that, then do something right and just extend it for everybody on this committee. Thank you.
Well, first, I do appreciate you giving us the opportunity to come and meet. And so I'm not going to make excuses for what has happened or didn't happen, or what we were supposed to do. So I do apologize if you feel that we have not given you that opportunity to provide comments. We have not given you the proper notice. So I do apologize for that. So I will state that moving, what we want to be doing is making sure that we are engaging with our communities, and not just necessarily this group, but all of our communities for all of our projects. And so, I'm here personally because I feel, yes, this is the right thing for us to be doing, engaging with you, listening to you, and hearing you, and ensuring that whatever we're doing has all of your input. And for me, I work a little bit different in terms of, in a smaller group, engaging with you, talking with you one-on-one. Unfortunately, COVID sometimes doesn't allow for us to be in the same room, but that's how I feel we should be engaging in these smaller groups and really getting down to the issues and figuring out how we can do that. And in terms of the date of when the comments are due, it's not just a milestone. I mean, it's a bigger part of the project. And so it isn't just a simple milestone. We do have a schedule that we have to adhere to. And, anything that slips impacts the entire project, not just, so it isn't a simple milestone. So, I want to go back to my team, figure out, what does that do to our entire schedule if we provide additional days to you? And, I'm not going to get into also, any personal stuff of what we think of individuals. I don't think that's right. But I will go back to the group, to my staff, to my team, and figure out, can we go ahead and extend that? In terms of this policy that Lisa, that you asked for, it is still in draft form. And once we get to a point that we can share it with you, we will share it with you. But it is something, at Caltrans that in our new strategic plan, it talks about engaging with the public and with the community. And we do intend to do that. That's why, we are here. I know a lot has happened or hasn't happened, but, I want us to try to see how we can have those kinds of discussions in the next couple of months as we continue to work on this environmental document. I saw Scott was on. I want to meet with Scott and talk about what is this truck study that you guys have brought up. How does that play into with our project? And again, see again, what are their connections, and what is their outcome, and how does that play into our environmental document? So I will make sure that we do that. I know Lisa provided a lot of comments. We have written them down. I would like, for us to, I'm not sure who I would talk to or who we would talk to about setting up another meeting with the smaller group to address some of these comments or concerns. So that's my commitment to the group here to do that. And we can, again, figure out how we can continue to work with you.
Thank you, Diana. And sorry.
I'm sorry. I said thank you, Diana, for providing those answers to the questions that were being presented tonight. I do see Estella from our Spanish line has her hand up, and she's had her hand up. So I do want to give her the opportunity to ask her question and speak. So Estella, go ahead.
Sí, buenas noches a todos. Pues aquí estaban diciendo también que si no hay, en caso de no ser seleccionado este proyecto, de no construirlo, no va a haber mejoras en las carreteras de peatones y las bicicletas. También mi pregunta sería, este proyecto, ¿qué sí nos va a beneficiar a nosotros, la comunidad, para limpiar el aire? Porque sería la entrada a más troques o más contaminación. Para mí esto sí me preocupa, porque sería más contaminación para la comunidad. Es muy rápido todo esto. Este proyecto se me hace muy rápido para tomar una decisión. Yo pienso que esto necesita más tiempo. Es todo muy a la carrera. Entonces, yo necesito saber si esto nos va a beneficiar, si no va a contaminar más. Es mi comentario. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, Estela. So Ms. Estela lets us know that, good evening. I want to know that in case that this project is not constructed, will there be improvements for those of us that need to walk or bike in the community? Will there not be a project that helps improve air quality? I need to know this because it just seems like this project is moving very quick, and I don't know that we have really identified whether this is a project that is going to be of benefit.
Can someone from the Caltrans team respond to that? And then I do see that we're at time, so we are going to have to wrap it up as we have a few important announcements and we need to open up for public comment. So first, can someone from the Caltrans team address your question?
I may have misunderstood some of the question, but I'll let this project features 2 locations and 2 alternatives at each location. We haven't pre-selected which alternative we're going to construct. That's a topic for another day after comments are received. But what these 2 alternatives bring forward are pedestrian improvements and make provisions for cyclists. So non-motorized vehicle pathways. If these 2 alternatives at each location don't go forward, you're suggesting a no-build situation, and the end result is what you have out there it would remain. They don't offer any advantage to cyclists, the cycling community, or pedestrian accessibility. So these projects feature improvements, and Caltrans would like to see these improvements go forward for those reasons. But a no-build situation does not bring any benefit to cyclists or pedestrians.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you all. Thank you, Kimberly, for wonderfully facilitating that conversation. I do see that we are over time, and I want to be respectful of everyone's evening. So as Diana mentioned, they have noted everyone's comments and feedback, and we'll be taking some actionable steps moving forward to address those, your feedback and your action items. So with that said, and also we've noted all of the comments in the chat. So we'll also include that and send that over to Caltrans to also address. Thank you all for your participation and comments, and we will move on to wrapping up this evening with a few important announcements and then opening up for public comments. So first, we do have a few agenda items proposed for the next meeting, which will be in January 12th. So the suggested agenda topics are continued budget discussion and the rules, regulation, and stationary sources measure update. Are there any other agenda topics anyone would like to propose? All right, and just as a reminder, tomorrow will be the debrief and agenda setting meeting. It's supposed to be scheduled 1 week ahead, but since we moved today's meeting to this week, just a reminder that it will be tomorrow. It will be starting at 4:30 instead of 5, so that we have an hour to make sure we cover everything since we ran out of time last time. If you are planning to come at 5 p.m., please come anyway. I'll provide updates at 5 p.m. for those who missed the first half. There's also been a request to make a CSC members contact list publicly available to everyone in the CSC, so that if any of you wanted to contact the group as a whole, instead of directly going through the air district, that'll be available to you. So we created a contact list form for you to fill out. The information you share in the form will be made public on the website. So please note that this is completely voluntary, and we will send this form through the air district to email. So we'll keep that form open indefinitely and update the list as needed. Also, we sent out stipends for October and November. Of course, let us know if there are any mistakes or if you did not get yours. We will be processing today's stipend next week, so please be on the lookout for that. Lastly, the Air District will be sending out new calendar invites for all meetings for the year of 2022. So this includes all CSC meetings, agenda setting meetings, as well as subcommittee meetings. Also be on the lookout for those. All right, are there any questions with anything I just shared?
I don't see any questions on the YouTube or Facebook channel.
I just have something to say as co-host. When I was working with you guys to plan out this agenda, I knew that this discussion on Caltrans was going to be a pretty lengthy one, and I think that having those questions dropped in the chat without us being able to hear the answers and being able to provide follow-up questions is a really disrespect to this committee. It's okay if we go over a little time. This is our meeting. This is something that's important to us, and we want to be able to ask questions and get those answers and ask follow-up questions. So just remember that in the future when we have something like this, when we're in a discussion like this, and I just feel that it's very disrespectful just to stop it abrupt and then have Caltrans address the questions without us knowing what the answers are and then being able to provide follow-up questions to those answers.
Thank you, Kimberly. We will make sure that all those questions are answered. It was my understanding that some of the questions were answered during the report out from Caltrans. That will be noted, and we can debrief on those in tomorrow's meeting. Absolutely. Our intent is never to disrespect anyone. As we were tracking the conversation, it appeared that those questions were being addressed. Any public comment?
All right, if there are any more comments or questions, we will end the meeting.
Thank you all. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the discussion. You guys enjoy your evening.
Happy holidays. See you next year.